ungrateful philanderer. I would have divorced him and demanded the return of my dowry, but I knew he would sooner have me killed than give me my right. So I waited for the right time to take what was mine and disappear. And then the fires came. As he prepared to evacuate our villa, I gathered our most precious belongings, coins and gemstones, and the moment his back was turned, I ran. I could barely see for the smoke, and the streets were full of people trampling each other. I ran for the river, like everyone else, and leapt in. The next thing I remember, I was waking up on a riverbank, not far from here.
A lady named Karen was helping you up, huh?
It's all right. Say what you will about this place. At least my fornicating husband will never find me.
That's fair.
While there's no shortage of snakes here, at least with the golden rule, they have to try to be discreet about it.
Why are you working out of a shrine?
This shrine was in use as a clinic long before any of us arrived here. Kind of strange to set up a clinic in the temple of the god of disease. But the god who inflicts a curse is also the only god who can undo it. So I suppose praying to Apollo for healing kind of makes sense.
He's also the god of medicine, but okay.
Well, she used to run the clinic. She was a midwife, not a physician, but she was the closest thing we had down here. And she was good too, until she suddenly lost all interest in us. One day she told me she'd made some profound discovery about the golden statues. This changes everything, she kept saying, but I had no idea what she was talking about. The last time I saw her, the last time any of us saw her, she was muttering to the statues, like she could talk to them. And then she shut herself in the palace, barred the door from the inside, and nobody's seen her since. She's been gone so long now, we figure she's either dead or up to something so strange that she doesn't want anyone else to know about it. But I really wish I could reach her, because that's the only hope I have of solving a troubling problem, a real thorn in the paw situation. One of my patients is suffering from terrible rheumatism. His joints are inflamed and he's in constant pain.
Do we have some Tylenol?
I really shouldn't say. He wouldn't like it. And he's a little bit scary. He's become so irritable that the smallest things set him off. And I worry he'll end up losing his temper and lashing out. And you know what that means. I just know Nevia would know how to treat him, assuming she's still alive. But nobody seems to know how to get into the palace.
Let's see what I can do.
Thanks, I suppose.
What do you think about the golden rule?
A city without sin might sound good on paper, but whoever dreamt it up didn't think it through. Maybe it was an attempt to create some kind of utopia. But snakes like Decius will always find loopholes to exploit. And what can we do about it? Absolutely nothing. In some ways, we are worse off because we can't take the law into our own hands.
Keep hearing him, the statues whispering. Is that normal?
Oh no. Sorry, I don't mean to worry you, but no, that is definitely not normal. There was one other person who claimed she could hear the statues talking to her. But that was Nevia, and she went a little mad.
Yeah, so I don't know about the golden rule pretty much anything at this point. I have not seen it go off. I have not seen anything about it happening. All I know is that it gets triggered somewhere.
She was a midwife, not a physician, but she was the closest thing we had down here. And she was good too, until she suddenly lost all interest in us. One day she told me she'd made some profound discovery about the golden statues. This changes everything. Yeah. The last time I saw, and then she's been gone. But I really, one of my patients, he's become so irritated. I just know Nave. Thanks, I suppose.
Can we talk about Yulia?
Sure. What do you want to know?
Do you think she was poisoned or self-inflicted?
Do you really want to know? I mean, if somebody poisoned her, then surely they would have broken the golden rule. And So maybe it's best we don't discuss it.
Yeah, ignoring the problem will make it go away. Do you know what poisoned her?
Hemlock, I believe.
Is there any reason she might have wanted to die?
I haven't seen her in months. She's not allowed to leave Malleolas' villa, and they are quite secretive.
I wonder if she was going to vote for the other person.
Gladly. I wish. Some people here need proper medical care, not the half-baked, hanging by a thread excuse for treatment I'm giving them. Just don't get sick or injured here. I'll do my best to treat you, but I'm out of my depth and dangerously short on everything you can imagine. Well, come back if you get sick or injured. Day or night, I'll do what I can.
Told me not to. Anyway. A collection of barbaric-looking medical implements, including forceps and shears. Come on now. I always like watching Star Trek 4, The Journey Home, when Bones is screaming about all the barbaric medical implements that they are using. Mortar and pestle. Haven't changed much in the last 2 millennia. Herb rack. Wooden rack containing various dried and ground substances. Statue of Apollo. Okay. I'm sure that's against the...
May Apollo keep you safe.
I'm sure that's against TOS. It's art. There we go. That's my loophole. Okay.
Greetings and salutations. Greetings. I'm Georgios. It gladdens me to see another foreigner in our midst. We must stick together, you and I. And I must say, my sartorial friend, your clothing is most extraordinary. Leather boots in place of sandals, trousers with precise stitching, and such a curious design. I have traveled distant trade routes from the markets of Damascus to the farms of India, and never have I seen anyone dressed quite like you. Tell me, I must know. From which exotic part of the world do you hail?
You'd never believe me if I told you.
And now you have me more intrigued than before. But since it appears you do not wish to share, I will wait until we are better friends. We will have much time here to get to know one another. But for now, do you require assistance? I know you do not require clothing, so information perhaps?
What's your story?
My story? How kind of you to ask. I am a tailor and I run the humble shop in the forest.
I'm gonna set up a tailor shop here.
You mean to say, with all the turmoil and terror of the Golden Rule and so few customers, why bother setting shop at all?
More or less.
I'll tell you, it is precisely because of the Golden Rule that I wish to remind my friends of the importance of looking one's best. I say, the more of our customs we preserve down here, the more we can preserve a semblance of normality, the better our chances of keeping our heads. Don't you agree?
Fair enough. How'd you end up here?
A good question. A very good question indeed. And I would be happy to tell you if only I could remember it clearly myself.
Why don't you tell me what you do remember?
I remember I had just been to Rome to sell an extraordinary selection of wares. And droning in coin, I decided to celebrate my success. I rented a prestigious villa by the Tiber, invited over a few select friends, and we began making our way through some of the most exquisite wine money could buy. Quite a lot of it, in fact.
You fell in the river.
I have had visions and awoken in strange places before. I have even found myself naked in the desert sands more than once, but none of that compares to this. This time, I remember people screaming, then falling into a void as empty as time before creation, gasping for air, and then nothing. When I regained my faculties, I was lying naked by the banks of the Tiber, gods know how many miles from my villa.
Okay. So you floated down the Tiber?
Indeed. I'm lucky I was carrying a little extra weight. I believe it kept me afloat. In any case, it seems I'd been rescued and resuscitated by a benevolent stranger. I went to find firewood for his campfire, stumbled across a cave, and discovered that trapdoor temple. And here I am.
Let's talk about something
Anything
else.
you like.
You know way out?
Shh! Not so loud. What are you playing at?
Sorry, did I say the wrong thing?
Have you not been told about the last attempt? Oh, then I suppose this duty falls to me. Ah, it is a long story.
Today is a sad day.
It's perfect timing. Why don't you tell me?
Of course, the first question any of us asks when we first arrive is, how do I escape? It is only natural after all. And scaling the chasm wall is out of the question, for it is simply too steep and too far. But as they say, if the wind fails, use the oars. And here the second option is to leave the way we came in, through the shaft above the bathhouse. See, the shaft is quite high, but if one gathered up enough wood, one could make a series of ladders and climb one's way out.
Guessing I don't have time for that. I can do that.
I admire your enthusiasm, my friend, but please allow me to explain why this is inadvisable. There was an attempt made by resourceful fellows who lived here some years ago. They even decided to keep records of their escape attempt for posterity. Unfortunately, as soon as they began to carry the first ladder down the hallway, they heard a godlike voice shake the entire city, and that, tragically, is where their tale ends. So it seems that to merely attempt escape is to invite the wrath of whichever god oversees this place, and so I say it is best to not even discuss it aloud.
Okay. Fascinating theory. What do you think about the Golden Rule?
Yes. The many shall suffer for the sins of the one. As a Greek, this is nothing new to me. It is how our gods operate.
Why do you say that?
Have you not heard the tale of the god Hades? He was the first to learn this dreadful lesson when he abducted Persephone and imprisoned her in the underworld. When Demeter, the mother of Persephone, learned of this, she did not punish Hades, the guilty one. Instead, she changed the climate of Earth so that it became hot and dry. Nothing grew. The grain turned to empty husks and the rivers dried up. Innocent people died by the tens of thousands until at last the other gods were forced to act, lest they have no worshippers left. So yes, we know this rule. This has always been the case. The Golden Rule has merely brought it into focus.
What can we do about it?
If we are to survive, I say we must each heed the simple wisdom of Thales of Miletus, first of the 7 sages of Greece, who said, avoid doing what you would blame others for doing.
Sounds simple enough.
It does, doesn't it? But it is not enough for us to do this alone. For even if 99% of us adopt this principle, that will never be enough. Sadly, no matter how well we protect ourselves, the life's work of many good people can be undone in the blink of an eye by a single selfish act.
Thales of Miletus was also the one who first figured out how tall the pyramids were by using similar triangles. So, interesting that his name is brought up here. I know, I've seen it happen.
Ah, the voice of experience. I am sorry for your loss, my friend. But on a lighter note, I will say one thing for the Golden Rule. For all their grim and haunting poses, these golden statues do make magnificent models for my clothing. Do they
Yeah,
not?
I noticed. Who are you going to vote for?
That That, my friend, is quite the dilemma. But after some reflection, I'm leaning toward voting for Malleolus. I do not enjoy the thought of another visit from Domitius if I voted the wrong way.
Anything I can do to change that?
Nothing comes to my mind, my friend.
I'll be going.
I hope that our paths cross again soon, my friend.
Ceramic bowl. Archaeologist insight, or ceramic fruit. Ceramic bowl full of urine, which Romans used because of its ammonia content to wash and bleach their clothing.
Sometimes I stare at the great temple on the bluff, and I think, whatever is in there, it has to be important. Ah, a new face. Salve, and welcome to a little community. My name's impossible to pronounce for most people, so you can just call me Virgil. You arrived on a sad day, friend. What with Julia's death? I wish we could have met under better circumstances.
What's your story?
Well, I'm an architect. Or at least I was back in Rome. That's probably too grandiose a term to describe what I do here. Help out with repairs and try to stop old buildings from collapsing on people.
I recognize that almost immediately as well.
You probably don't want to hear about the ingenious architecture or mysterious history of this place.
I'm also wondering, given the color of his clothing, I'm wondering when he's from. Probably don't want to hear about the ingenious architecture. Tell me about the city's history.
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Some of these shrines were constructed hundreds of years ago, which means Romans have been arriving here for at least that long. But there's one thing that puzzles me. The oldest shrine in this avenue isn't Roman at all. It's Greek.
Isn't it common for Romans to copy Greek art and architecture?
Well, yes, that could be the reason. Or it could mean that there were Greeks living and worshipping here before the Romans arrived. Which begs the interesting question, who really built this place? And could it be far older than any of us imagine?
Probably.
If only there was a way we could talk to the people who came here before us. The stories they could tell.
Oh, you mean like chatting with golden statues? Okay, so that idea means that this is certainly not the first time that this has gone through, and perhaps the previous group has already had the, golden rule, wiped all of them out, turned them into gold statues, and now we're seeing the remnants of whoever's left. Architecture.
Gladly. Personally, my favorite thing about this place is the aqueducts. Those series of adjoining arches. They're an ingenious feat of Roman engineering with a very practical purpose. They take fresh water coming from outside the city and distribute it all across the chasm. It's funneled below the palace and into a cistern beneath the great temple. Some of it flows down into another cistern beneath the villas, and the rest is funneled to the shrine of Proserpina, where it fills the lake, and allows us to fish and farm.
If they bring water into the city, could we use them to escape?
Hey, not so loud. Just talking about that could anger the gods for all we know. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you'd have to find a way inside somehow. Just, please, try to be a bit more discreet about it.
Tell me about the temple up on the bluff.
You mean the great temple? This one's a bit of a mystery. Given the way it's positioned so prominently, looking down on us, it's clear that whoever built it felt it was the most important temple in the city.
Zeus?
Unfortunately, someone else went out of their way to keep its purpose a mystery. You see, usually a temple is dedicated to a particular god, like Proserpina or Diana or Apollo. Usually, that god is obvious. But in this case, it's unknown. There's an obelisk out the front, which probably used to bear the name of this unknown god. But it appears Some barbarian defaced it. And of course we can't get inside because it's locked up tighter than the Temple of Saturn in Rome. And that contains the treasury. So we're all left wondering, which god is that temple dedicated to? And could it be the one responsible for the Golden Rule? Unless somebody figures out a way inside, I suppose we'll never know. Of course.
No, I'm good at finding things. No way out?
You wouldn't believe how often the new ones ask that question. But I tell you the same thing I tell everyone else. There are much worse places to live out your days. You might have a few sleepless nights thinking about the Golden Rule, but once you get used to the fear, knowing that a single slip-up could cost you everything, it's not too bad. Nothing new to me, anyway.
What do you mean?
Oh, I just mean I grew up in the Batavi tribe, far to the north in Novio Magus, and learned to expect a bit of hostility. They weren't nearly as tolerant as the Romans.
Batavia. Ah, Jakarta. Oh, no, wait. That's something else there. Batavians. Nederlanden. Yeah. From Batavia. Yeah, that helps. No, seriously, man, come on now. I mean, clearly this is not Indonesian. Come on now. Ancient Germanic tribe living in the region of Batavia around Nijmegen. Branch of the Chatti, which occupy the territory of modern Holland. It's not giving me any like good time periods or anything like that, but you know. Historical places. There you go. No, that's fair. But a lot of the other people are wearing very drab sort of garb. So I was thinking that like he doesn't seem like he's from the same kind of either time period or again, he's from a Germanic tribe rather than actual Rome, so I don't know. So it looks like the region that he's talking about, like Batavia, is maybe also partially including Passau in southeast Germany, but I don't know. Oh, here we go. Specifically, yeah, that's weird. But that's not... man. That's weird, because it's not around Netherlands. Which is where the other thing says it is. I don't know. It's weird. So Roman era looks like we're talking somewhere around yeah. We're talking somewhere around 100 CE and after. So it's interesting, at least, you know, time-wise. All right, what do you think about the Golden
Some
Rule?
people say it's divine, the work of a god, but I'm not so sure. It just seems so flawed to me. Like it's distinctly human. I mean,
Yeah.
once you've been here long enough, you'll notice people doing things that just seem so wrong to you. But this so-called god doesn't seem to care, which means one of two things. Either you don't know the difference between right and wrong, or this unknown god doesn't. And I'm pretty sure I know the difference. Do you?
I think so, yes.
Good. Then I hope you'll agree that there are only two ways of dealing with unfair rulers. The first is to leave. The second is to remove the ruler from power. And it seems leaving may not be an option.
I hear you.
I'm glad. It's best if I say no more, but I hope you'll give it some thought.
I noticed the graffiti. What does it mean?
Oh,
I haven't actually,
It
but
means
whatever.
someone thinks I'm a sinner, and that I'm going to break the golden rule.
Why does someone think that?
Look, I haven't done anything wrong, if that's what you're thinking. Somebody
Yeah.
just has a problem with my preference for male company.
I see.
And when you grow up in the north, as I did, in the city of Noviomagos, you expect a bit of hostility. The Batavi are not known for their tolerance. I saw enough friends killed or driven away to know the cost of not keeping your personal affairs to yourself. So I hid who I was for, what was it, nearly 10 years? Watching what I said and where I looked. But that kind of fear eats away at you slowly, until living isn't any better than the thing you were afraid of. Needless to say, since I'm now living underground, halfway across the known world with an assumed name, my openness didn't go down well among the enlightened folk of the Batavi.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Nice of you to say, but not necessary. In any case, the Romans are far more accepting, and among them, I get to be who I am. Or at least I thought that was the case. It seems I was wrong.
Do you know who's writing the graffiti?
It's not just graffiti. I have quite a collection of handwritten notes too. The strange thing is, I keep my personal affairs to myself. I've never really been interested in any of the men here. Not my type. So I'm not sure what I could have done to upset this person. If I had to guess, I'd say it's probably one of those cultists.
Cultists?
Strange bunch. They insist there's only one god, and that he considers my nature a sin. Can you believe that? If there are any of them here, they won't admit it. Not since they supposedly burnt down half of Rome last year and went into hiding. All I know is, if these threats keep escalating, eventually my secret admirer is going to cross a line and break the golden rule.
Let me look into it for you.
What? Really? I didn't expect that. But thanks. It's always a pleasure to meet someone so selfless. I'm glad you arrived when you did. I'd start by figuring out who the cultists are. Or maybe ask around among the merchants here. Someone who lives or works in the forum must have seen something. But if you find them, please don't hurt or humiliate them. I suspect they're just confused.
Let's see what I can do. Who are you gonna
Well,
vote for?
Malleolus is talking about loosening some of the restrictions in this place. And while it's all a bit vague, at least he has a vision.